Joining us now, Tara Setmayer, former Republican communications director on Capitol Hill, and Zerlina Maxwell, host of SiriusXM's Mornings with Zerlina, where she interviews activists, politicians, entertainers, and influencers. Great to have you ladies here. So, Zerlina, we're reporting that Doug Burgum, J.D. Vance, and Marco Rubio, those three senators are, well, two senators and a governor, are high on Trump's VP list, and that the person will be in attendance for the debate tomorrow. What do you make about the timing of an announcement potentially coming before the debate?
The timing is the tell, Anna. And I want to remind everyone watching at home that the only reason why Donald Trump needs to pick a vice president is because his former vice president was one of the folks who had to run for their lives on January 6th. Mike Pence did not retire. The reason why he is not on the ticket this time is because of the erosion of Democratic norms that Donald Trump has been engaged in this entire time. So this three list of folks on his short list for VP, they're all loyalists to Donald Trump. That's the litmus test that he's working under. And I think the big picture is about the fact that he may be setting up a poor debate performance and need to distract from that poor debate performance by diverting our attention by announcing who his VP will be.
Tara, Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio was on Fox this morning saying he's in the mix. Watch this.
I think they reached out to a lot of people. I'm among them, and that basically said, hey, send us some information. My best guess is they're looking at me, and they're looking at a lot of other people too, and they'll ask me if they ask me. And if they don't, that's fine. I'm human, right? And so when you know this thing's a possibility, if it doesn't happen, there's certainly going to be a little bit of disappointment.
A little bit of disappointment, Tara? Is he hoping Trump sees this?
Of course. That's why he's on Fox and Friends. This is not by accident. This is a calculated strategy. It's The Apprentice meets The Bachelor of VP competitions here. He's auditioning all of them. And that's what this is about. And I find it very ironic that you have people like J.D. Vance and Doug Burgum, Marco Rubio, of course, we all know, who used to be very anti-Trump, and now he's become a sycophant. But people like J.D. Vance, who for the moderate, particularly women out there who Trump needs to appeal to, he thinks he has a chance at winning. J.D. Vance is someone, whether he's sitting there with his wife or not to look like a family man, who during his Senate campaign said that women should stay in marriages for the sake of the kids, even if they're unhappy or violent. He's also made some pretty outrageous comments about abortion in the cases of rape, and incest as being an inconvenience. These are extreme positions that are in line with the MAGA extreme positions that Trump has taken. They want a national abortion ban. And people like J.D. Vance and Doug Burgum, who also signed into law one of the most restrictive abortion bans in the country, making it a Class C felony if you perform an abortion after 6 weeks, except for cases of rape and incest. These are extreme positions, and Trump is considering these guys to be his VP. It tells you how he feels about women's rights in this country. And the fact that this is something that, is it going to appeal to the moderate women in the swing states or the people who Trump needs to win? I don't think so. And by announcing this now, it's to take away and distract from the possibility of Trump having a terrible debate. We all know that Donald Trump is not a great debater. So this is a way of distracting another shiny object. In case Donald Trump blows it at the debate, they can have this as a backup plan to try to change the news cycle. That's why he's doing this. I don't think he's actually picked anyone. This is all just a ploy.
Well, we'll see. I see you nodding along there, Zerlina. But let me ask you about President Biden and what we're learning of his debate preps. We know Ron Klain, his former chief of staff, is a key member of the Biden debate prep team. And we have some reporting that Klain really studies GOP candidates the way an NFL coach might watch game tape of opposing teams looking for patterns and weaknesses to exploit. And Klain, who once wrote in a memo that he would research what the opponent has been saying in the run-up to a debate on the theory that the opponent will repeat the same lines on the debate stage, apparently had real success with Hillary Clinton. Someone saying Ron's able to predict how an opponent will react in particular situations. And in Hillary's case, in 2016, she was able to trigger Trump multiple times during their debate. What does that insight tell you about what we might see from President Biden tomorrow night?
I think President Biden has the benefit of being underestimated. You know, you have Republicans saying two things at the same time, which can't be true. One, that he's old and feeble and doesn't know where he is and won't be able to stand up. And the other, that he's on some performance-enhancing drugs like Bradley Cooper and Limitless. You know, if he was on performance-enhancing drugs, I imagine President Biden would take that every day so that he's sharp every single day as president. But again, I think their critique of Biden ahead of the debate shows that they're very scared that he's going to show up and be the seasoned, experienced debater that he's demonstrated he is in every debate that he's participated in going back decades. And Ron Klain's preparation of the president for this debate is going to focus on substance. He has to do a couple of different things. He needs to speak to the base of the party that's frustrated over certain policies. And he also needs to speak to his vision for the future. He has to remind the American people that when he took over, we were in the middle of a global pandemic that tanked the economy, and he's taken a number of steps to bring us back from the brink. And so he has a tough job tomorrow, but I think that he's up to the challenge. And it is critically important to include someone like Ron Klain, who has that debate prep experience.
Meantime, Tara, today, former GOP Congressman Adam Kinzinger, who served on the January 6th committee, endorsed President Biden, saying in part, it's because of my unwavering support for democracy. Would an endorsement like this do much, do you think, to get Republicans or independents?
Well, I think that Congressman Kinzinger's endorsement is important. As we all know, that we really need to get those moderate Republicans who are uncomfortable with Donald Trump and the direction that the party is going in. They need a permission structure to vote for Joe Biden. And when people like Congressman Kinzinger come out and say this, it's taking the next step. There are a lot of Republicans out there who are unhappy and frustrated with the way the party is going, that are still unwilling to take that step and say, forget partisanship. I am voting for President Biden because of preserving our democracy. Trump is an existential threat to our freedom and our way of life in this country. He's indecent, he is incapable, and he's unfit. We are waiting for more Republicans to follow in his steps. It's partially why we started the Seneca Project. It's bipartisan, targeting moderate women, particularly right of center women, to give them that permission structure it's okay to vote for President Biden this time if you care about freedom in this country, if you care about women's rights in this country, and partisanship does not matter. This is bigger than partisanship. And someone like Adam Kinzinger and other Republicans, we encourage them, please come out and do this, because our democracy is at stake as a result of it. So good for him for doing that. I think it's a positive step.
Tara Sedgmaier and Zerlina Maxwell, ladies, thank you very much for your analysis. I enjoyed the conversation.
Hey there, MSNBC fans. I'm Luke Russert, and be sure to join me, Rachel Maddow, Jen Psaki, Lawrence O'Donnell, Steve Kornacki, Joy Reid, and many more September 7th in Brooklyn, MSNBC Live Democracy 2024. Click on the link for ticket information. We will see you there.